Welcome to H2K Infosys. H2K Infosys is a e-verify business based in Atlanta, Georgia, United States. We provide 100% job-oriented, instructor-led, face-to-face, true live online software training programs. It also includes access to Cloud Test Lab with software tools. We provide live project for you to work on. We also provide assistance with mock interviews, resume preparation and review, and job placement assistance. H2K Infosys is trusted by so many students across the world. H2K Infosys provides world-class services in IT training with real-time project work for corporates and individuals, special IT training for MS students in the United States, software design, development, QA manual and automation, performance testing and maintenance, IT staff augmentation, job placement assistance, and tech support.
But they have enhanced in such a way that it can work for any kind of UI frameworks, not only with respect to JSP pages. Let us say we have responded back with success. Once you have responded back with success, your dispatcher servlet contacts view resolvers. View resolver, this is also another Spring-based class. The popular one which we are going to use is internal resource view resolver. So whenever you have mentioned that in our configuration file, whenever you have mentioned that I want to use internal resource view resolver to resolve the actual view, your Spring framework will ask, hey, I got the logical view name now. Now go and provide, it will just provide the logical view name to this internal resource view resolver, and this will provide you the actual JSP page. To provide this, for internal resource view resolver, you need to provide two properties. First one is prefix and the next one is suffix. Prefix nothing but where exactly the JSP file or your view file available. That is the prefix path. Normally we'll place under web content only. Our JSP pages, it will be available under web content only. So just specify as /. Any kind of path resolution, it should start from runtime only. Runtime nothing but your web content. If you place at some other folder, specify that the JSPs are available under /.jsp. Suffix. What is the extension for your view? Currently I am using JSPs, so the extension is star.jsp. So once you have sent the logical name as success, your view resolver adds the suffix and also it will prefix with the resource path and it will identify that particular file under your web content folder. So that means your success.jsp needs to be available, which is nothing but your view page needs to be available under web content location. Are you able to follow now, Vijay? View resolver?
Yeah, now I got it.
Okay, cool. Let us take a look at a small diagram, then you guys might be able to understand clearly. The first request will be received by your dispatcher servlet. This is the first layer. Whenever a client has sent some HTTP request, your web.xml will forward the request to dispatcher servlet, and the dispatcher servlet will contact the handler mapping and identify what is the controller that needs to be instantiated. Once it has identified, your dispatcher servlet will create an instance and it will forward or it will dispatches the request to the actual controller. Then your controller performs the business logic and it will create the model and view object, and it will respond back to the dispatcher servlet. Now the dispatcher servlet identifies whether it is a logical view name or actual view. If it is a logical view name, it will contact the view resolver to resolve to the actual view. So the view resolver you are supposed to configure within your Spring configuration file. Once a view resolver has specified the actual JSP page, your dispatcher servlet will forward the request to that particular JSP page. Along with that, it will create all the model information and set it in one of the scopes, and it will make it available. It will be available for our view page to get the data based on EL expressions. That's the whole flow. Let me know if you guys have any issues. Let us create a dynamic web application. I have created a test MVC application. We are going to write a small application first. What it will do is it will take some information, or it will just forward the request to our controller, and then it will get some message from the controller, display onto front end, just like our hello world message. We'll see how it is traversing between the components. So the first step is configure your dispatcher servlet in web.xml file. You can see that I have created a servlet with name annotation, and the class name is org.springframework.web.servlet.dispatcher-servlet. This is your actual servlet which needs to be received all the requests. And once after that, I need to provide the mapping, so I'm just specifying that as /.
Krish?
Yep.
Why you have given org.spring frame or using the servlet given by that framework itself?
Yeah.
Or is it your own servlet?
No, we are not supposed to write our own servlet, right, for MVC framework. The controller needs to be in the hands of framework only.
Okay.
Yeah. My index.jsp, it just consists of a simple form. We'll come back to action again. Forget about that. And after that, it will just consist of a simple button, input type submit, and the value is message. So it's just like a simple form which consists of a button. Once it has triggered a request, it will be received by your dispatcher servlet, and your dispatcher servlet look for a file called annotation-servlet.xml file within your webinf folder. So there should be a file with name annotation-servlet.xml file. If you guys verify the previous namespace, it consists of only beans and Spring Beans 3.0.xs3, and this time I have introduced context and also MVC related stuff. So the context or MVC related stuff, they are used for web oriented applications. Once you have specified context, there will be 7 parameters available, 7 or 8. Context, you can see that 1, 2, 3, 4, 8 parameters, 8 elements that are available within your context framework. If you guys open this one, you will see what are all the elements that are available within your XST file. So you are supposed to adhere to those components or those elements only. See, currently we are not going to configure any of our beans. You guys remember in last class, in last our Spring core class, we have configured all our Spring beans within our beans.xml file. But currently we are not going to configure any of the user controllers or user classes within our beans.xml file. The reason for that is we are going to use annotation based controllers. To inform to the Spring framework that I am going to use annotation, you need to specify an element called annotation config. When you write annotation config, context annotation config, this element was available inside the context, so you should specify the namespace. When you specify annotation config, Spring understands that no controller declaration was available within the configuration file, and it was supposed to be based on annotations only. We'll come back to the rest of the parameters in a second. Now, write a controller class. When you are writing a controller class, your controller, we have mentioned that our controller, it won't extend or implement any of the framework components. So then how you will specify that this is a controller? To specify that, we have plenty of annotations which we can use to inform to the Spring framework. Whenever you want to inform to the Spring framework that I am going to write a controller, it should be annotated with @controller, which informs to the Spring framework this is a Spring controller. The second annotation is request mapping. The request mapping annotation is used to specify the actual path. That means at the top level, you are going to specify this is a Spring controller class, and the next one you are going to specify request mapping. And here with value attribute, you need to specify what is the path that needs to be bind for this particular controller. Currently, we are going to bind /index. Let us say /index is the URL. That means during your handler mapping identification, it will look for this particular request mapping annotation, and it will take the value of the request mapping annotation, and it will create a map with /index to login controller. That means whenever a request with the /index has reached to dispatcher servlet, then the handler mapping identifies that, hey, this is the controller that you are supposed to invoke. Then your dispatcher servlet will forward the request to your login controller. So let us say we have specified these two, and after that you are going to write some methods. Public void get message, that is our current one. You can write a method public void get date. See, currently we are writing a Spring controller class, but we are not writing any of the methods that are related to the controller class. We are writing our own methods, and we are writing some normal methods which will be called by our Spring framework. The reason for that is you are not adhered, you are not bind to the framework, and you are free from extending or implementing any of the classes, and you are free to write any of the methods as well. So for each and every method, you have the option. With Spring, this is the major advantage. With each and every method, you have the option of specifying the path attribute one more time. That means Spring will use this particular one as the startup URL, and then it will look for index/message. Whenever you are requesting for index/message, Spring will come and look for this particular mapping, and it will call the method getMessage and executes the business logic. Let us say for this one, if you have mentioned as @request mapping of date. See, normally how our URL will construct: http://8080/test_MVC, that is our context path, and once after that you are going to specify the resource. So here at the resource level, if you specify index/message, then Spring will invoke this particular method. So if you specify index/date, Spring will invoke the same controller, because the first path it will result to the index controller. Then it will look for the second path. Here you are using /date, which was mapped to getDate method. This kind of approach is called as REST-based approach. See, with older versions, with 2.5, this was also just like how you have done with respect to your struct framework. You are supposed to implement controller class, and you need to override handle request method, just like how you have done with respect to struct framework. But with Spring 3.0, they have enhanced a lot, and they have identified that instead of binding to the framework, they have allowed us to write any kind of methods. And the second advantage with Spring 3.0 is your controller is a POJO. There is no need to have a separate POJO object. Within your Spring controller, if you declare private string username, private string password with setters and getters, and if your index page consists of username and password, your Spring will use dependency injection, and while calling the controller, it will use the dependency injection, and it will inject the properties from your JSP page. From your JSP, it will read the username and password, and when it is executing the controller, just before executing the controller, it will call the setter method for all your properties, and it will make it available for your controller processing. So your controller can act as a POJO as well. See, REST based, this is also another kind of web services. Currently this is getting very popular. REST based, this is opposite to the SOAP. It won't depend on WSDL file. There won't be any contract for REST based approaches. REST based, normally it is used for HTTP request handling. This is also kind of web service, but it won't use, there won't be any contract between the client and server. Usually REST based approaches are used for audio files or file uploadings or any other kind of multi-part data processing. So now your Spring has taken the advantage, used the advantages of REST based approach, and it has mapped the URLs with each and every method. See, currently you have a employee controller. With employee controller, you can write three methods: insert data, get data, update data. With your struct, you are supposed to write three different controller classes, three different actions like insert action, update action, and get action. But with Spring, you can write a simple controller, a single controller, and at the top level, you can mention the path as /employee, and at the down level, you can mention that this path is /insert, and this path is /retrieve, and this one is /update. So during your request submission, if you follow employee /insert, it will refer to this particular controller only, but it will result to insert data method call. And in the same way, if you mention /employee /retrieve, then it will result to get data method. This is the major advantage. Instead of you writing a lot of controllers, you can just combine all the specific stuff, specific class related stuff in a single controller itself, and your Spring has the capability of resolving the call to the actual method. Let us write a controller. So currently my controllers are available under com.simple.annotation.controller. I have created an index controller. You just create a simple class. Whatever that we have discussed in the Word document, it consists of the same information. I have created a class, public class index controller, and at the top level, I have mentioned that this is a Spring controller class. Whenever you have mentioned @controller, you can see that it has changed the format to Spring based file. Once after that, my request mapping, I have started with index /star. That means whatever that comes after index, let us say it can be index /data or message or any kind of stuff, but this is the controller that needs to be invoked whenever the path is like index /. Forget about this one, we'll come back to this one later. Once after that, our intention is to display some message onto the front end. So whenever user has clicked on a button, the request will be received by the controller, and once after that will forward to some other JSP wherein it will display a simple message called H2K Infosys Spring MVC application. So I just used one sysout statement and I have created a string message object, and after that you can see that for my get message, I have specified an annotation called request mapping, the same annotation which we have used at the class level also. Here I have mentioned that the sub-level path is message. So whenever the request with /index/message, the call will be resolved to get message method. And here you can see that I am passing one object model. See, there is no restriction, either you are supposed to pass or you are not. You can pass model object or you can leave. It's your choice. Currently, why I am passing? I just want to send some information back to the user, so I need to take the help of model class. The model class was available in org.springframework.ui.model, nothing but user interface related stuff. So once I got the model object, see, you just specify the parameter name, Spring will create the model object and inject while calling the get message method. So now I'm calling model.add attribute, just like request.setAttribute, and I'm setting the message, and the actual value is MSG. And finally, I'm returning a string which is success response. So currently you can see that model was set at this layer, and I'm returning the logical view as return success. There is one other component, model and view object, with which you can set both of them at a single point. We'll take a look at that one later. Now, forget about all the remaining stuff. We'll come back to them again. Currently, my controller was available under com.simple.annotation.controller, and the name is index.controller. Sorry, index controller. See, currently I have only one. I can write any number of controllers inside any of the package. But what is your responsibility? You need to inform to the Spring framework that I have written some controllers and please maintain those controllers. How we can specify that to Spring framework? Currently, you have already mentioned to the Spring framework that you are going to use annotation based configuration. And it's your responsibility to specify what are all the classes that are specified as Spring controllers. To specify that, you need to use an annotation called component scan. The component scan will contain an attribute called base package. The base package is nothing but where exactly your controllers are available. So currently my controllers are available under com.simple.annotation.controller. It is recommended that you should write all the controllers under a single package. See, if you write at a different level, you need to write one more statement, context component scan, and specify the base package for that. So why to write two statements for same component scan? That's the reason. Write at only one level and specify the base package. Here you can see that I'm specifying only the package path, not the actual class file. The reason for that is it will look into this particular package and identify what are all the controllers available. As of now, we have one. We can write any number of controllers, but ultimately we are supposed to load all the controllers. So once you have specified that the annotation based configuration to your Spring framework, the next thing is you need to configure your handler mapping. The handler mapping, you can see that it was also supposed to be configured as a simple bean within your Spring configuration.xml file. The name should be handler mapping, and you need to use default annotation handler mapping. And for adapter, annotation method handler adapter. This is for whenever you have specified default annotation handler mapping, it will by default uses annotation method handler adapter. No need to specify from our side. Even though if you didn't specify, there won't be any issue. This was provided by Spring Framework, not by us.
So many of our students have given testimonials on how our training programs are. You will find them on kudzu.com and on our website h2kinfosys.com. On our website h2kinfosys.com, you will also find more detailed information on who we are, the courses that we offer, what each course covers. Also, if you're interested in a demo program, please register on our homepage on the left-hand side. Just give us more information about yourself and we will send you a link for a demo class. The demo class is absolutely free. Experience our commitment by just attending an orientation workshop at no cost. Our team of faculty and advisors are here to guide you with the right information. If you still have more questions, please feel free to call us. Call us at 770-777-1269. This is a United States number. If you're calling from the UK, call us at 020-337-17615. You can also email us at training@h2kinfosys.com or h2kinfosys@gmail.com. Thank you for watching our videos. We wish you a great career in information technology.